Here's the first part of our book, Magic Treehouse, Narwhal on a Sunny Night. Greenland. Jack and Annie sat on their porch in the warm summer twilight. Jack was reading a library book called Amazing Facts. Get this, he said, a beehive can have as many as 60 million bees in it. Is that all, said Annie. Ha, said Jack. Okay. Then get this, he read. Some experts say there might be 10 billion trillion stars in the universe. Wrong, said Annie. In fact, there are 10 billion trillion and 73. Jack laughed and they both looked up at the dark blue sky. The first stars were coming out. Seriously, 10 billion trillion? Said Annie. I can't even imagine it. She stood up. Hey, do you see that? What? Said Jack. That little cloud, said Annie. Where? Said Jack, standing up. Over the tree top, said Annie. Oh man, whispered Jack. He saw it too. A small, brightly glowing cloud over the Frog Creek woods. We'd better check it out, said Annie. Jack put his book on the porch chair. Mom, Dad, he called through the screen door. We'll be back soon. 15 minutes, their dad called. We'll watch a movie together. Great, called Jack. He grabbed his backpack and then turned to Annie. Let's go. Hurry. Jack and Annie dashed down the porch steps. They tore across their yard and headed up the sidewalk. When they came to the Frog Creek woods, they crossed the street and hurried between the trees. The darkening woods were filled with the sounds of crickets and frogs. The air smelled of warm green leaves and wood and earth. Soon Jack and Annie came to the tallest oak. Hooray, said Annie. The magic treehouse was back. It was shimmering against the evening sky. Yes, said Jack. He grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Annie followed. They climbed into the treehouse. Look, said Jack. In the last light of day, he saw a book on the floor. He grabbed the book. He read the title on the plain green cover. Greenland, the world's largest island. Greenland, said Annie. That sounds nice. Yeah, our teacher told us about Greenland, said Jack, but I don't remember what he said. Open the book, said Annie. Jack opened the book. He found a map in the pocket on the inside cover. He took it out and unfolded it. Everything was black and white except for Greenland. The huge island was colored green. Green land. Sounds so beautiful, said Annie, like it's filled with green grass and green trees. Don't be fooled. It can't be very green, said Jack. Why not, said Annie. Because look, with his finger he traced a circle on the map. This is the Arctic Circle. Inside the circle is most of Greenland, Norway, Iceland, and parts of Canada and Russia. It's one of the coldest regions on the world. Oh, then why is it called Greenland, said Annie. Jack shrugged. And why are we going there, he said. Do you see anything from Morgan? They looked around the treehouse again. Here, said Annie. She picked up a small piece of yellow paper and read it out loud. On your next journey, you will land on the shore of an island with icebergs, reindeer, and more. On a day that seems endless with no dark of night, travel through fog, travel through light. Explore different worlds, show friends where to go. Unite all these worlds with a word that will glow. No dark of night, said Jack. What does that mean? I don't know, said Annie. And what about unite all these worlds with a word that will glow? Yeah, what word, said Jack. It sounds really cold, too, with icebergs, reindeer, and more. But that could be fun, said Annie. We can handle the cold. Remember our great trip to the Arctic a while ago? Oh, right, we wore those polar bear masks. And saved the baby bears, said Annie. That was fun, right? Yeah, it was, said Jack. Okay, back to the cold. Annie pointed at the green island on their map. I wish we could go there, she said. The wind started to blow, the treehouse started to spin, it spun faster and faster and faster. And then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 2, Ice Everywhere. Sunlight shone through the treehouse window. The sound of splashing water came from outside. Hey, it doesn't feel that cold, said Annie. Maybe it's because we're wearing these heavy woolen clothes, said Jack. Their summer clothes had changed into wool outfits. Now they had on wool coats, shirts, caps, woolen mittens, and wool pants. Even Jack's backpack had changed into a wool bag. His notebook and pencil were inside. You were right, said Annie, looking out the window. I don't see much green here. Jack looked out with her. The treehouse had landed on a rocky shore of an ocean bay. Across the water were brown mountains with snow-white peaks. The air felt crisp and clean. Seagulls swooped over the low blue seawater. The sun shined on sheets of ice. Ready to explore, said Annie. Yep, said Jack. They slipped their map back inside the Greenland book, and he put the book and Morgan's rhyme in the wool bag. Then he and Annie climbed out the window. They stepped onto a pebbly shore. Oh man, ice everywhere, said Jack. The ocean bay was filled with ice. Small, flat icebergs were floating in the middle of the bay. Others were close to the shore. The water must be freezing, said Annie. Jack took off a glove and dipped his hand into the seawater. Ow, he yelped, it's so cold it hurts. Jack dried his hand and put his glove back on. Then he took out the Greenland book. He read aloud from the first page. For millions of years, Greenland has been mostly covered with ice. In the 21st century, experts worry that the world's climate is warming and the ice is melting. Scientists from different countries live at research stations in Greenland to study the effects of climate change. Now I remember what our teacher told us. Melting ice in the Arctic can cause sea levels to rise and lead to disaster. That's serious, said Annie. I hope we meet some scientists. Me too, said Jack. I wonder who else lives here. He found a section in the book called People of Greenland. He read, experts believe that people first occupied Greenland about 4,500 years ago. Today, 56,000 people live on the island. Most of them are known as the Inuits. Inuit, said Annie, like the Inuit seal hunter we met on our other Arctic trip. He was great. Yeah, but I don't see any signs of Inuit people in this area, said Jack. He looked around the cold, barren landscape. It feels pretty lonely. Wait, look at that, said Annie. She pointed to a group of small, silver-gray creatures resting on an iceberg. I think those are seals, said Jack. They're so little and cute, said Annie. Jack found a chapter on seals in the book. He read, Greenland has 3 kinds of seals. Ringed seals are the smallest. Okay, they must be ringed seals, said Jack. Suddenly the seals let out a high-pitched bark. They spun their heads from side to side, and then they slipped off the ice and disappeared into the water. I think we scared them, said Jack. A swooshing sound came from across the bay. Not us, said Annie, a whale. A huge gray whale was skimming across the water. A sharp burst of air spurted out the blowhole on top of its head. Whoa, said Jack. The whale leaped into the air. Then it crashed down with a giant splash. It dove under the sea. A humpback. That was a humpback, said Annie. I saw the bump on its back. They sing a different song every year. How do you know that, said Jack. I love whales, said Annie. I wrote a report on them. Great, said Jack. He looked up whales in the index of their book and found the right page. Greenland's waters are filled with whales. 15 different kinds can be seen along its coasts and in ocean inlets. They include humpback whales, orcas, narwhals, beluga whales. Wait, more whales, cried Annie. A bunch more. I know, said Jack, not looking up from the book. There are 15 kinds, he kept reading. Fin whales, blue whales. Stop! I mean in real life, shouted Annie. Look up, Jack. Jack looked up. He couldn't believe his eyes. About a dozen whales were swimming in the bay now. They had sleek gray backs. Each had a long tusk jutting from its rounded head. They're narwhals, shouted Annie. Real narwhals. Chapter 3, Unicorns of the Sea. The narwhals were bounding through the water. Foamy waves washed over the ice. I wrote about narwhals in my report, said Annie. They're some of the most mysterious creatures on Earth. Clutching the book, Jack ran after Annie. They're called the unicorns of the sea, Annie shouted over her shoulder. I get it, called Jack. Their long horns look just like the horns of unicorns. The narwhals arched out of the water to breathe the fresh air. As they exhaled, puffs of mist burst from the blowholes like sneezes. Annie stopped running. Their horns are really tusks. And almost all narwhals with tusks are males, she said, panting. And the tusk is a super long tooth. It can be as long as 10 feet. No kidding, a 10-foot tooth, said Jack. What does the tooth do? He'd heard of narwhals before, but he didn't know much about them. No one knows for sure, said Annie. Scientists hardly ever see narwhals, but we just got here, and there they are. I don't believe it. We're lucky, said Jack. He opened their book and found a section on narwhals to read aloud. Narwhals are mysterious whales that live most of their lives in the dark sea. They can dive deeper than any other mammal and stay underwater for 25 minutes. No narwhal has ever survived in captivity. That's odd, said Jack. Most animals live longer in captivity. They get plenty of food, and they don't get killed by predators. I know, said Annie, but when narwhals are captured and put in aquariums, they don't live long. They need to be free. She and Jack watched the narwhals dive deeper and deeper into the water. Their large heart-shaped tails flashed above the surface, then the creatures disappeared from sight. Jack read more. Like most whales, narwhals can communicate underwater by using a variety of sounds, such as clicks, whistles, and squeaks. Scientists put recorders in the sea, said Annie, and they hear all these weird sounds, but they can't figure out what narwhals are saying or how they can hear at such long distances. Look, they're back, said Jack. The narwhals had popped to the surface. Several were swimming upside down. Some were pushing each other around. Others waved their tusks and tapped them together. Why are they tapping their tusks? Asked Jack. They're having a chat, said Annie. Jack laughed. Actually, scientists think they might use their tusks to attract mates or gather information, said Annie. As Jack watched the narwhals bob up and down in the water, he tried to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the middle of his count, seabirds began to screech overhead. The narwhals made a loud whooshing sound. They thrashed around in the water. "What's wrong?" said Annie. "That," said Jack. A tall fin was gliding across the bay. It looked like a black flag. "A shark!" cried Annie. "That's way bigger than a shark fin," said Jack. Suddenly, a giant whale burst out of the waves. It had a black back and a white belly. It was as big as a school bus. The whale crashed down into the water. "An orca! A killer whale," said Annie. "And there's more than one," said Jack. At least 4 other giant black fins appeared in the bay. The killer whales were headed straight towards the herd of narwhals. Chapter 4. Stand Back. "Go, guys, go!" shouted Annie to the narwhals. She raced to the shoreline. Jack ran with her. "Go, go, go!" he yelled as loudly as he could. The narwhals dove under the surface of the water again. The orcas took off after them, but one of the huge predators swam towards Jack and Annie. "Whoa," said Jack, pulling Annie back from the edge of the sea. Suddenly, there was a flurry of splashes and whooshing sounds. "What's happening?" said Jack. "That orca's chasing a narwhal," cried Annie. A small narwhal had separated from his herd. He was swimming towards a row of icebergs about 30 feet offshore. "The orca's still coming," said Annie. The giant orca kept chasing the narwhal. "Hurry!" cried Jack. The narwhal escaped through the passage in the row of icebergs. He swam into a pool of shallow water. The orca was too big to swim through the opening. It crashed against the huge mounds of ice. Some of the ice splintered and broke off in chunks. The orca tried to swim under the icebergs, but the water was too shallow. It smashed against the barrier again, but the passage was too narrow. Finally, the killer whale swam away. "Yay!" said Annie. Jack sighed with relief. The narwhal was alone in the pool of water. "They're gone," called Jack to him. "You can go now. Go!" "Hurry before they come back," yelled Annie. "Find your friends," shouted Jack. As they spoke, more ice shifted and fell. A chunk of fallen ice now completely blocked the passage that led back to the deep water. The narwhal circled inside the shallow pool, surrounded by packed ice. He was trapped. "Oh no," said Annie. "He can't get out." "Stand back," someone shouted behind them. "Move away." Jack and Annie whirled around. A boy with shoulder-length red hair stood on some rocks above them. He looked as young as Annie, but he was holding a huge spear. "Whoa! Hi," said Jack. "Who are you?" The boy scowled. He wore a red tunic with a rope around his waist, leather pants and boots. His spear was made of wood, and he had a sharp metal blade. Maybe his parents worked at a research station, thought Jack. Maybe he likes to dress in costumes and play with ancient weapons. "Move away, he's mine," the boy said. "What do you mean yours?" said Jack. "He's not anybody's," said Annie. The boy strode down the slope towards the water. He raised his spear, aiming it at the narwhal. "No, stop! What are you doing?" said Jack. He charged at the boy and tried to take his spear away. The boy lost his grip and dropped it. Jack grabbed the spear. It was so heavy he could barely lift it. What kind of kid carries around some big old weapon like this? "Give it back," the boy said. He reached for his spear, but Annie jumped between him and Jack. "Stop," she said. "Why do you want to hurt that narwhal? What's wrong with you?" "His horn is worth a fortune. Everyone knows that," said the boy. "Well, that's a terrible reason," said Annie. "You can't kill him for his horn," said Jack. "Why not?" said the boy. He stared at Jack with fierce blue eyes. "Because narwhals are special," said Annie. "They're mysteries of nature. They know secrets we'll never know. They hear things in ways that we'll never hear. They talk in a language we'll never understand. Now do you get it?" The boy looked from Jack to Annie and took a deep breath and stepped to the water's edge. He looked at the narwhal as if seeing the creature for the very first time. Then he turned back to Jack and Annie. "I will help you free him," he said. "Thank you," said Annie. "Here, you can have this back," said Jack. He gave the boy his spear. "How can we free him?" asked Annie. "We will go to him together," said the boy. "Come with me." And that's where we're going to stop. And when we come back, we're going to be on Chapter 5, Eric's Son.